Crow didn't bring up the subject of death again after that. By the time we'd finished our parfaits and left the cafe, it was after 6 o'clock. I could see the sky was still blue when I gazed up at it. These summer days were surprisingly long. We had a small surplus of time.
これからどうする?
We don't have enough time to do much of anything.
では、帰るか。
We'd need to take the monorail.
今からなら、日が暮れる前には家に着けるか。
Crow looked up at the sky the same way I did. From the sundial's perspective, we were currently at 12 o'clock, and the house was in the direction of 3 o'clock. The usual monorail route there took about 10 minutes. That's if we follow the flow of time anyway.
時間の流れ?
Since we're still having fun, why don't we try riding the monorail counterclockwise for a change? We couldn't do anything other than go for parfaits today, so since you love the monorail so much, we could spend more time riding it that way. We should be able to see a really beautiful sunset over the sea too.
時計回りなら未来。反時計回りなら過去か。
It's just like your watch.
そうか。
Crow mumbled a short response.
まっすぐ家に帰ってもよいのだぞ。
Then it'd just be a waste. This is supposed to be a date after all.
デートではない。
Of course not. I scratched my head. After that, we just had to walk over to the monorail station.
手をつながないのか?
Oh, right. Realizing I was getting anxious, I put my hand to my chest. My heart was beating a little faster than usual. I wiped the sweat off my hand with my shirt, then slowly held out my hand for Crow to take. However, after looking at my hand for a moment, Crow started walking without taking my hand. And so, we intentionally took the longer route back home on the monorail. Whether it was by coincidence or by fate, there wasn't a single other person to be seen in the car we boarded. Crow sat down and I stood next to her. Just as I figured, by the time we'd gone halfway around the town, the sun had started to set. I found myself in that scarlet world once again.
楽しかったな。
Crow, who had been looking out the window the entire time, turned around me and said that. Yeah.
今日も楽しかった。
Crow repeated herself.
今日が楽しくて、明日も楽しければ最高だ。
Once summer break gets here, it's gonna be like party fever every day.
フィーバーフィーバー
Fever!
フィーバ
Damn, she's too cute! Still, there's gonna be a shitload of homework.
ー勉強はお主や DD に手伝ってもらえばよい。
Maybe you could study together with Miyu and Misaki sometime.
みちるは
You can ask her for help with anything except homework.
あの女子の頭の悪さを周囲が加速させておるのだな。
Well, if we got everyone together, Michiru would come to my room whether I asked her to or not.
それもそうだな。というより、お主の部屋に入り浸りそうだ。
She practically lives in there over long breaks. Hell, in the summer she even wears all kinds of skimpy clothes to get a rise out of me. Not like I minded getting a bit of eye candy though.
夏休みになれば、まさしく朝から晩まで遊べるのだな。
Yeah.
パフェも食べ放題か？
You'll get a stomach ache if you eat too much ice cream. Besides, you really ought to keep yourself from eating too much so you won't get fat.
なんだ、我が輩が見た目を気にするような性格だと思ったか。
Well, if you don't even try to maintain how cute you are, that's not fair at all, is it?
まあ、お主に嫌われの程度には注意しよう。
You'll have to try stuff like swimming at the beach in the local festival too, though I already have plans with Makoto for the festival.
誠は誠で、二人きりで出かけたいと言っておるのだろう。美咲やみちるもこれからおねだりしてくるだろう。
It's not easy being popular, eh?
調子に乗ってると刺されそうだが。
Guess I'll have to watch my ass then. Crow laughed at me, very merrily. Just that sight, the sight of the girl I liked laughing that way, gave me the feeling that there was still good in this world.
こんなに幸せだとおかしな気分になるな。
She took the words right out of my mouth. Then,
楽しかった。これは夢だな。
Crow spoke quietly.
お主が人間にとって大事なものを我が輩に伝えようとしていたことには気づいておる。我が輩を愛して大事にしてくれたことも痛感している。いくら感謝しても足りぬほどにな。しかしもう一度クロノスと会う必要はない。そこまでせずともよいのだ。
Crow turned away, as if she couldn't bear to look at me anymore. Then she turned her glazed stare to the rails ahead of us.
もうすぐ次の駅に着く。そこで降りればまだ間に合うだろう。その足で海に行き時計を捨てよ。我が輩のことは忘れてよい。
Crow looked straight up at me and told me that. I can't do that. I smiled to calm Crow down. Forgetting about you is something I'm not capable of doing.
一体お主は何をしようとしているのだ。
All I want is to end the story with a plain old happy ending.
ハッピーエンド。いや、それなら余計に我が輩ではなく他の誰かを選べばよいことだろう。
I shook my head. I couldn't do that. What Crow had said was correct, but to me it was wrong. Everyone had realized that I was risking my life for Crow's sake. But the real problem came after that. And no one had dared to speak of that problem. What exactly was in it for me, risking my life like this? There was a need to be absolutely clear on that. I guess so. Looking at Crow as she drooped her head, I then looked around to the car of the train. We were riding the monorail on our way home from a date, but Chrono still didn't show any sign of appearing. After I steeled my resolve to do this, it looked like we were going to make it home safely anyway. Was there something still missing? I thought about what was still different from last time, and when Chronos appeared, my girlfriend and I were both smiling. Right now, we were talking about her possibly being separated. That just wouldn't do. Crow,
なんだ。
may I kiss you?
いや、お主は突然何を言っておるのだ。
It's not sudden, it's something I've wanted to do for a long time.
そうか。別れの口づけということか。
Just because you're so cute.
我が輩などでよければしてもいやしてみたい。そう。
I brought up this idea in order to get rid of the gloomy mood. That was too easy. Due to the tears in her eyes from saying our farewells, Crow's eyes glittered like gold as she looked up at me. Oh jeez, that made me way too excited. Crow's eyes closed, and she ever so slightly stuck out her lips. A grin crept onto my face without me noticing. I could die happy right now. Be careful what you wish for. At that moment, the train slowed down as it neared the station. Here we go again. Crow's body sprang upwards, though only slightly. The light disappeared from her sparkling eyes. I grabbed tight onto the railing and prepared myself for the impact. Owing to the law of inertia, I was bracing myself against the direction we were traveling in. Even with the prior knowledge that it would happen, the violent crash that ensued was no less sudden than before. It definitely did feel like an earthquake. I rubbed my aching arm and then opened my eyes, which had reflexively shut. The world had broken. In this world, time had come to a halt. In this world, time was out of joint. I had stepped into the same abnormality that I had witnessed one fine day, just as I wished. And then, with her kimono fluttering in an impossible breeze, the master of this broken world appeared. Yo, haven't seen you in a while. Though I guess it hasn't even been a whole month.
私にとって時間の定義は意味がない。私はここにいるが、どこにでもいる。
Yeah, whatever. You could accuse me of just whistling in the dark, but my face showed, clear as day, that I was laughing at something which was absolutely no laughing matter. Memento mori. Remember death. No matter how prepared I was to face this moment, it was still enough to terrify anyone out of their wits. I just need to be certain of this, though, in these circumstances, right now, is the crow I know able to hear this conversation?
それを私が望むのならば、可能である。
Nah, in fact, I'd much prefer it if she couldn't hear.
私には関係のないことだ。
Yeah, I'm just talking to myself here anyway.
自殺か?
The goddess didn't skip a beat, bringing the conversation back to the original topic. No, I actually have a reason for seeing you this time. And sorry about last time, by the way. I had no idea how to talk to a goddess back then.
話になど意味はない。
You might be right. She was right. In the face of an omnipotent goddess, bargaining, arguing, or even begging were things which had no meaning. Trying to communicate with her as though she were human would be utterly futile. In other words, this was the same situation as when I talked to myself in order to speak to Crow. It was like praying to God for help. It was just a question of whether God listens to the prayers of mere humans. Then I happened to notice Chronos narrow her eyes slightly while gazing at me. I hadn't been expecting that.
不理解だ。お前のしていることは定められた自殺と同義の行為でしかない。
You can't even understand my feelings right now, eh? Some sorry-ass goddess you are! I couldn't help but grin as I cracked a joke at her expense. I had no idea whether it could even be hot or cold in this world, but there was sweat dripping down my cheek. I don't want to die. And yet, this is for the sake of my humanity, for chivalry, and for my beloved Crow.
私には何の意味もない。
Not you, I mean the Crow I know.
私は私だ。しかし、私である私が人間に対してお前の言う不必要な概念を学んでしまったことは理解している。結果、私が私に戻ろうとするたび、力との接続で同じことが繰り返されてしまう。私は私としてここに存在してしまっている。
I was right in thinking that Crow lost her power when she got cut off from the main body, but every time the goddess reconnected to Crow, Crow used the main body's power to save me. Perhaps the events differed with each separate timeline that was created, but it created an infinite loop regardless. From my perspective, this was the second time, but how many times had the story played out by now? More importantly, though, I've had it all wrong. I hadn't been targeted by the goddess, rather, the goddess had been trapped in our world. I took out Crow's watch. Everything that had happened, it was all this damn thing's fault. Even in a world which had stopped, the hands on the watch continued to move. Normally, the time it displayed was 5 minutes behind the actual time, but now it had very nearly caught up with the actual time. Right, on that day when Didi and Crow both called me master and I turned back time, I hadn't reacted quickly enough to prevent it from happening. Now I knew the reason why. It was because the watch had turned time back less than 5 minutes. Well, whatever. Anyway, when it comes to solving this problem, I'm guessing you can't think of any ideas better than killing me or tearing Crow away from you.
厳密な言葉でなければ不理解だ。
I want to help you with your problem. That's why I've come to see you.
私への干渉を止めるのならば、お前が死ぬ必要はない。
If you're telling me to give up on Crow, I refuse.
では、
I'm telling you to let Crow go, damn it! My tone became much harsher without me realizing it. I screamed at her. Knowing that my very existence could be erased at any moment, the sheer stress of that thought bearing down on me made me feel like vomiting. I couldn't tell what sort of expression I was wearing, but right now I had to keep laughing. If Crow really was just being used as an observer, that means you experienced everything she did living as a human, doesn't it? You heard everything she heard, and you saw everything she saw. Being overjoyed when she got her phone, being wistful while gazing up at the moon, being so stupidly impressed by something as simple as consuming a parfait. Falling in love, crying, laughing, saying she was glad to become a human, every little emotion a human could feel, you experienced it all firsthand. Falling in love, crying, laughing, saying she was glad to become a human, every little emotion a human could feel, you experienced it all firsthand.
私ではない。
Then who the fuck was that Crow supposed to be?
私ではない私だ。
That's it. As long as Crow is connected to you, she can never truly be free. So fucking let her go already! That was the reason I had intentionally returned here. No matter how many precious human experiences I gave to Crow, as long as the goddess could take it all away in the blink of an eye for no reason at all, there was no meaning in doing so. Crow could never move on with her existence like that. In order to truly make Crow independent at the end, in order to do that, it was necessary for me to meet Chronos once again. I know that I'm nothing more than an insignificant speck to you. I also know how there's nothing I could possibly give a goddess like you in exchange. But if Crow really represents the free will you've come to have within you, you'd better show her some fucking respect! Chronos slowly closed her eyes. She stayed like that for 10 seconds. Even if it was rather strange to speak of intervals of time in a world where time was unmoving, Chronos opened neither her eyes nor mouth for what felt like 10 seconds. That blank void of time started to give me a suspicious feeling. It was almost as if Chronos were in thought right now. This wasn't a game of chance. I had expected she would give me an immediate answer, regardless of whether she agreed with me or not. I thought there was nothing which could sway a goddess's judgment. What could have been happening within this goddess? Before I could figure out what was going on, Chronos opened her eyes again.
お前はそれを言うためだけに私に会いに来たということか。私ではない私のために。
Right.
わからない。
You don't need to understand. After all, there's no such thing as a means to an end with you, is there?
そうだ。
Nothing holds any meaning to the goddess, since she is omnipotent. To a human, that seems almost pitiful.
だが、私は私を失うことを望んではいない。訂正する。私は私のことを知りたいがために私を存在させておきたい。お前の知っている私を完全に切り離せば、私は私だけになってしまう。それを人間でいう喪失だと私は理解している。
What? Chrono stopped again. My heart was pounding away in my chest like a drum. What was that just now? What sort of expression was Chronos making? Until this very moment, I had believed that Chronos saw Crow as nothing more than a hindrance. But Chronos, without the observer known as Crow, was... No, she had denied that way of describing it. Chronos, when correcting herself, had effectively stated that the things Crow had learned while living as a human were things she herself wanted to learn as well. And without Crow, she was effectively just one single entity. Are you trying to tell me you were lonely? Chronos gave no response. But rather than denying it, it appeared she was simply unable to comprehend it. I looked around. This place, where time had stopped and the world had seemingly come to an end, was the realm Chronos inhabited. With the exceptions of windows that someone had created, the windows that Crow's watch gave birth to, the goddess could only experience this world. This was the only place she knew of. However, the goddess could look into other worlds through a tiny peephole. Worlds where time flowed freely, all possible worlds. Then I looked into Chronos' eyes once more. I had been mistaken. She too was Crow. Every time Crow returned to this body, little by little, she came to understand human emotions better. She came to understand them by pure happenstance. In such an isolated realm as this, she was alone. Let her go. I repeated it again. With no further need to bluff, I spoke in a normal tone of voice this time. In exchange, I will be by your side.
それは人間にとって永遠は死を意味するが、やはり自殺ではないのか。
I don't know. I muttered in a totally different voice from before, a just barely audible voice of shock and exhaustion. I don't know. Perhaps I was simply heartbroken beyond all reason. I don't know, but there aren't any other fucking choices left for me. So, then, of a sudden, my words stopped in my throat. If I really accepted this, no matter how prepared I was for this fate, it meant I would never see Shuji or any of the girls in my life ever again. Michiru, Makoto, Miyu, Misaki, Didi, I would never see any of them ever again. I would effectively be throwing away my whole life and any possibilities that could ever come with it. My friends, my parents, whom I loved in spite of their quibbling, everything that lay ahead in my future, I'd be throwing it all away. But I promised Crow that I would stay with her, and I will guard that promise with my life. I sighed as I declared that. I'd figured my chances of survival were a good 20%. No, honestly, my more optimistic outlook was a 60% chance, or 70% if I was being really generous. But now, it was over. No matter what, I couldn't bear to have such a lonely existence continue to live in solitude this way. Ah, jeez.
それでいいのか。
Yeah.
わかった。この男に伝えるがよい。感謝する。
Huh? My eyes popped open in confusion, since something about Chrono's voice sounded different for some reason. Chronos, taciturn as ever, just stared at me in silence. However, her expression had softened. She awkwardly tried to move the corners of her mouth, and I realized she was smiling. That was her expression now. Crow?
我が輩は黒ではない。偉大なる時の神、クロノスだ。だが、黒という呼ばれ方もくすぐったくて嫌いではない。特にお主に呼ばれる時はな。
Crow danced through the air and brought her face close to mine. I knew it. Floating in the air really does suit you better. All the tension went out of my body, making me feel like I was going to collapse on the floor with relief.
なんだその感想は。
Who cares? That's just how I feel.
仕方のないご主人だの。
Crow put her hand on my cheek, and I stretched out my hand to touch her cheek in return. But I didn't feel any warmth there. My hand passed right through her. Crow.
なんだご主人。
Listening to Crow's gentle voice, I realized what Crow was thinking. What she talked to Chronos about when I was not there. Why, upon coming to understand love, she had suddenly come out and asked me about death in the middle of eating her parfait. I wasn't the only one who had steeled his resolve. Just like I had made my choice, they too had considered their options and made their own choices. All of us were striving for a happy ending. Most of all, Crow was doing the same. I felt my heart wrench as my voice caught in my throat.
ご主人。もう一度名前を呼んでくれ。
Crow.
もう一度。
Crow.
もう一度。
Crow.
もう一度。
Crow. 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 Are you going to leave me?
安心せい。我が輩はいつでもお主のそばにおる。
Crow's expression suddenly displayed a hint of shock, even though I hadn't responded. But why? She must have noticed what was streaming down my cheeks.
短い付き合いだったが、よくもここまで懐いたものだ。
You're the one who became attached to me.
そうだな。我が輩はお主に情を抱いてしまった。それよりこんな風にご主人の泣き顔を目にするのは初めてだ。
I'm not crying.
そうだな。泣いておらん。
Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Crow's hand on my cheek moving slightly. Perhaps she was trying to wipe away my tears, but I couldn't feel the warmth of her hand. There was an incredible pain in my heart. After all, there was no way of stopping a human who had steeled their resolve about something.
すまんな。こんな時何を言うべきか我が輩は知らん。お主の涙をどうやって止めてやればいいのだろう。もっといろいろなことを知りたかった。
Crow. Crow, aren't you going to cry? It was a question direct from the unconscious mind. A choked sob escaped from Crow's throat. As if my question had shattered what little resilience she had left, Crow's voice stopped dead as she gnashed her teeth. Crow. Crow.
やめよ。名前を呼ぶな。
Her expression twisted into a grimace. Then,
怖いに決まっておるだろう。これがしか消えたくない。消えたくない。
the overflowing tears in Crow's eyes soon formed big drops that fell to the floor. Crow was always honest with her feelings, and right now she was a crybaby. Her tears fell through my outstretched hand.
消えるのは嫌だ。嫌だ。怖い怖い怖い。こんなの嫌だ。まだ何も我が輩は何ももっとお主たちともっと遊んでいたい。遊びたい。お主と一緒にでもお主が消えるのはもっと嫌だ。
From that point on, words were no longer necessary. Crow bawled her heart out. Honestly. Genuinely. Whatever shame she may have felt was washed away with her tears. You're right. I softly muttered that as I closed my eyes. Even more than I wanted to see Crow, I wanted to be able to touch her. If only I could have closed my eyes and reached out to feel her warmth for just a moment. I wondered if Crow could feel my warmth. I wanted to share just a small bit of human warmth with a crying child. Crow. 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 It's okay. I'm right here. I'll always be with you. Crow opened her eyes and looked at me. So I smiled back at her. The best way to stop someone's tears is to show them a smile. When someone smiles, it makes the people around them happy too. Simple, isn't it? A smile appeared on Crow's lips as she laughed. You look awful.
先に泣いたのはお主だ。減らず口を叩くな。
Touché.
それに一緒にいるという約束もうしただろう。
Yeah, you're right.
ご主人よ、最後に一つ我が輩が教えてやろう。
Don't you dare say this is the end.
大事な人との別れにはどうすればよいのか知っておるか。どうすれば残していくものを大切に思っているのだと伝えることができるか。我が輩はずっとそればかり見てきた。だから実は別れは得意なのだ。
I know.
そうか。
I know. Then simultaneously it was that both of us moved our lips toward the others. I could not even feel her lips upon mine. However, what I did feel was her warmth. The warmth of her heart. The heart which loved me. The heart which I loved. Our connection. Tears. The person I loved. The person I couldn't leave. Then I heard a voice. It was a very kind voice, as a tiny soul disappeared from my world. I slowly opened my eyes. No one was there. Nothing was there. Just a lone, dying glimmer of light. It's kind of refreshing to cry every once in a while, I softly muttered. My heart was at ease. The world around me was quiet. It was over. However, for just a little while, I could stay in this place where no one else remained. In that perfectly silent world, I closed my eyes. I etched into my heart the memory of that gentle voice so that I wouldn't ever forget it.
もしも人として正しく死を知ることができたのなら、生まれ変わることができるかもしれない。きっとできる。だからまた戻ってくる。あなたの隣に。時間を超えて。どうしてこれほどにもいつからこうして君に思い寄せ始めて同じ時間を生きていたいだけどそれを願うと消え入りそうでも溢れる気持ちを止められないだけど踏み出せる勇気くれる時を越え一つになるのを振り返らず前へ進む心幾千の過去から今また未来へと希望の光を信じて時が過ぎ笑い合えるまた思い出へと変わる日々を重ねたくさんの過去より今また紡いでく希望に輝く光へ二人で歩いていくから
Happily ever after, indeed. As our first post-break homeroom wrapped up, amidst the usual commotion, I muttered that aloud for no particular reason.
何がだつうかさんずい最近たまにそれ口にしてるな。
I'm happy though.
何がだ夏休みも終わって一番面倒くさい時期に。
Shuji groaned, his brutal and ever-present honesty on full display. Summer had concluded and the season had changed. It was now September. The summer heat still lingered, and all of the students had totally forgotten the class material over the long break, so everyone in the classroom seemed bored and listless. Even after homeroom ended, the students sat around idly instead of heading home right away. For no reason at all. Everyone wanted to sit around and chat about what they did over summer break. Why can't we have a fall break too?
奇跡的にさんずいと意見があったな。で、何がめでたいんだ？
Oh, nothing particular. I just like it when things have some closure. Hearing that, Shuji furrowed his brow at me.
もしかして夏休みの記念に風俗で童貞でも捨ててきたか？
Even if I did, why the hell would I be trying to tell everyone? There really was no point in being serious with him. Why did I even bother responding to that in the first place? Well, whatever. What about that girl from before her? Why couldn't you think of her as a possible girlfriend for me to get over summer break instead of some grade A courtesan or something?
うるせえ死ねえ夏休みに彼女ができるとかそんな幻ありえるかそんなもん
Well, I'll be damned. I actually agree with Shuji for once.
死ね
I've already blown my chance to do that though.
あ
Nah, it's nothing.
じゃあまた明日な
Shuji picked up his bag and turned to leave. Hey, Shuji,
なんだよ
just confess to me, Chiro, already. Wow, that was quite the glare he shot at me. Still, that whole incident with Miyu didn't happen this time, so there wasn't any need for me to tell him to do that anyway.
した
What? Say what?
夏休みに告白した
I didn't hear about that.
うるせえ
Hurling abusive language my way as always, Shuji left the classroom for real this time. Wow. He really did confess. That guy never ceases to amaze me. Since I didn't even have to hear the outcome from him to know what it was, I couldn't help but smirk, though I felt a rather sad memory floating to the surface as well. Serves me right.
何をニヤニヤしてるのレイ君
Ah, well, it's something kinda sad.
楽しいことじゃなくて
Nope, definitely sad.
よくわからないけど DD さんとか1年生トリオと遊ぼうと思ってるんだけど一緒にどう
Don't tell me. It's that again, isn't it?
Hi!
DD burst in, practically glowing with excitement.
第17回黒さんがいなくなって寂しいね会の開催ですそういうこと
If it's been that many already, I can't help but fear you guys will find pretty much any excuse to hold an assembly of that club.
否定はしない
Still, considering all that had happened, I guess it was a necessity to assemble a club like that for everyone directly affected by it all to get together and chat. Anyway, I'll have to pass.
おー残念ですなんで嫌なのせっかくこの学園の可愛いところを集めた女の子たちに吊るし上げてもらえるのに
Makoto, do you even understand what you're saying?
あんまり考えてない
Besides, I'm flat broke right now.
あベリー切実な理由でしたねせちがらいな
I attended the first meeting of the It's Awfully Sad Without Crow Round Club, but I don't want to talk any further about it than that. To cut the long story short, I offered to pay for everyone's food and drinks, and just about lost my shirt in the process.
まあいいやじゃあ DD さんいつものお店ではーい私もお掃除当番が終わったら引きますじゃあ
After making sure no one else could see from outside the classroom, Makoto suddenly vanished into thin air.
いいですねテレポーテーション
It's amazing how she can use it so naturally, but that's just more proof that Makoto isn't normal. I guess Makoto didn't get rid of Loki's watch in the end after all. And one could say she had complete control over it too. Perhaps by not throwing away the watch, Makoto meant to tell me that her final showdown with me was now on hold because Crow had disappeared. Only Makoto was a continuation. And surely she would continue to be one. As I sat there deep in thought, Didi, who had stuck around, came over and looked at my face. Too close!
思わずチューしたくなる距離ですね。
If you understand, then get away.
ご主人様、本当に参加しなくていいんですか？
I just said I'm flat broke.
そういうことではなく、まあいいです。
I appreciate your kindness, but you don't need to worry about me. I'm not depressed or anything.
そうですね。
Didi agreed with me rather indifferently.
もしも本当に落ち込んでたら、きっと今頃よりどりグリーンのガールの誰かに泣きついて恋人ができてますよね。
If I had that kind of girlfriend, our relationship would probably be too mushy for anyone to handle.
ねっとり？
Never mind. I patted Didi on the head. Speaking of Didi, I've noticed you seem to be in good health lately.
はい、今日もご飯が美味しかったです。
That's not what I meant. Well, maybe it was. Didi had been constantly exhausted throughout July, despite her insistence that she was fine. After some point in time, she appeared to be getting better. Undoubtedly, her health really was improving. Recalling that this had started to happen right around the time Crow disappeared, I wondered what sort of significance that could have had. Well, see ya later, Didi.
はい、またハウスで。
I said goodbye to Didi and left the classroom. Phew. Leaving the respite of air conditioning for the summer heat immediately made me start to sweat. Sometimes I wondered if autumn would ever come. It was annoying how the seasons had skipped right over autumn these last few years. Summer break ended and I didn't get a girlfriend after all, huh? I sighed, disappointed with myself, and took out my watch. Crow's watch. The hands on the watch no longer moved. It had lost its power to turn back time, and I couldn't break it no matter what I did. It had become a useless little souvenir, but I still carried it around with me all the same. I guess I should have scraped a little more money together from those lottery tickets after all. I was still feeling the blues about my lack of money, so gazing at the watch sparked practical worries about my finances rather than wistful memories of the way things used to be. I only had one more year in which I could live my life freely before giving myself over to the Savatari company. Maybe I should go looking for a job.
あら、
I suddenly heard a familiar voice. Before I knew it, there was Michiru walking hand in hand together with Misaki. Yo!
このような騒がしく薄汚れた場所で兄様に会えるなんて、今日はなんて良き日なのでしょう。
Foul and noisy? Well, whatever.
先輩、バイトするんですか？
Misaki, all too used to Michiru's strange way of speaking, tilted her head in confusion at my own mumblings instead. Well, I am flat broke and all.
どんな嫌味なセリフなのそれ？
I'm serious. I don't get much for an allowance.
普通に育てられてるのはいいけど、あんまり小さいことにこだわってると将来せこい人になっちゃうわよ。
Oh, chill out. I'm just gonna drive the Savatari name into bankruptcy anyway.
男らしい高貴な目標ですね。あんたら無駄なところでバカよね。
Like I said, Misaki, chill out. When the Savataris go down, I'm taking the Andos with me too.
何の関係もない。
Seemingly having touched off a nerve with my remark, Misaki's pride made her explode into a long-winded rant, like a superhero on a cheesy TV show making their grand entrance.
相変わらず美咲さんは楽しいですね。
Yep, it's all in a day's work.
私はあんたら兄弟のおもちゃじゃないのよ。そうですね。 おもちゃというより楽器のようなものでしょうか。
みちる、余裕でいられるのも今のうちなんだからね。次のコンクールで吠え面を書かせてやるんだから。
あら、吠え面だなんてワンちゃんみたいな品のないお言葉ですね。
私は兄様のメスイ。
Misaki seemed to be having a strange sort of meltdown. Though I'm pretty sure she meant to say something like, the girl who calls herself her dearest brother's little bitch with a straight face is the last freaking person on earth I wanna hear that line from. And evidently, Michiru seemed to be thinking the same thing.
私は兄様のメス犬です。程度の言葉で恥ずかしがっているようでは、やはり美咲さんは兄様にはふさわしくありませんね。
What the hell kind of character are you trying to make me into anyway?
毎晩のように欲望を妹に。
Not one more word. That was a rhetorical question and you know it.
かしこまりました。ところで兄様も第18回兄様は私のものだと納得させる会にご参加されるのですか？
I won't. Hey, wait. Did you just make that club's name up on the spot yourself? And besides, isn't it actually the 17th assembly?
中級会じゃなかったっけ？
あら？
みんながバラバラの名前で開催してるから数が合わないんだよ。全部合わせると23回目かな。
I could almost see the question marks over Misaki and Michiru's heads when Miu popped up out of nowhere.
あ、でもみちるちゃんとみさきちゃんは全部参加してるはずだよ。
Christ, you people! You love me too damn much.
それは
当然。そういうところは仲いいよね、二人とも。
Miu sighed, clearly the wisest person in the vicinity.
あ、そうだ、レイ先輩、こんにちは。
Oh, hi! It seems like your happiness might be running away from you again, Miu.
最近はまたちょっとあれですね。レイ先輩から離れ気味なせいでしょうか。
Anyway, it's too embarrassing for me to be seen with the three of you. If you're all here now, then you should get going.
ご命令とあれば。
先輩も今度は参加してよね。それじゃあ失礼します。
The trio of first-year girls said goodbye to me and then left, walking in the direction of the school gate. Or so I thought, but then one of them came back.
レイ先輩。
What's wrong?
黒さんのいないところでこういうことを言ってもいいのかわからないんですけど。私もまだレイ先輩のこと待ってますから。
Well, you actually don't have to wait that long anymore.
いつか迎えに来てくださいね。それだけです。
Giving me a quick bow, Miu turned and left to rejoin the other two. Ignoring the surrounding "go die in a fire asshole" glares from the other male students in the area, which carried on from that flirting, I found myself pensively lost in thought. A promise, huh? Someone was waiting for me. Those words weighed heavily on my mind, now that I had come to understand how it felt to be kept waiting. In the end, I had chosen no one. Now all of the girls were having these weird gatherings to distract themselves from me, almost as if they didn't want to pursue me out of consideration for the now departed Crow. If Crow really wasn't going to be coming back, then... No. As if to shake the excessive thoughts out of my head, I found myself scratching the top of my head, warm from the sunlight, as I began to walk. Walking down the seaside path from school, I boarded the monorail at the nearest station. For no particular reason, I got on the train that traveled around the town clockwise. It would take 3 times as long to go home this way than taking the train that went counterclockwise, but this was a symbolic gesture on my part. Clockwise into the future, counterclockwise into the past. Though there were empty seats in the car, I opted to stand and hold onto one of the straps hanging from the ceiling as usual, while I muttered that to myself. I had a hunch something was going to happen. Though riding the monorail was an almost daily occurrence for me, doing so now was setting my heart aflutter. Surely something was going to happen today. Crow was going to come back. I expected this day in, day out. And day in, day out, nothing happened at all. I was disappointed by the unchanging rhythm of my days, wondering whether someday I would stop expecting anything at all, but nevertheless, it still made my heart race every time. I felt no anxiety about it. Someday, she would definitely come back. And day in, day out, I was certain it would happen today. The central station and shopping district passed by uneventfully, and after a long time, the station nearest to my house finally came into view. Maybe tomorrow. As I mumbled to myself, I stood in front of the door that would soon open onto the station platform. The monorail slowly came to a stop. And then a gigantic grin appeared on my face. On the other side of the door's glass window, there stood a lone girl. A beautiful girl, clad in a one-piece dress which gave an air of summertime. The most beautiful girl in the world. One could say she was as frigid, yet sweet, as fresh ice cream. Why won't this door just open already? It felt like time had ground to a halt for me once more. Hurry, hurry! After one interminable second passed, the door finally opened. Crow's lips curved upwards into a big smile when she laid eyes on me.
お主、まだ童貞のままだろうな。
That's the first thing you say to me? You're such a buzzkill. My shoulders slumped against the open doorway. Damn it, I think I'm gonna cry.
ん？何かおかしかったか？これでもずっといろいろな言葉の中から選んだのだが。
Wait, you chose them? And you totally looked like you were playing a trick on me too. I wasn't sure what to say next. That was the face Crow made when we met for the first time. A gigantic grin.
というより、お主こそ戻ってきた我が輩への第一声ががっかりとはなんだ？
Well, excuse me for being honest. I was a little worried about the amount of time we had been standing there. The door was going to close in about 10 seconds. I'm not dreaming, am I? What kind of power had Crow utilized that allowed her to return to this world? Had she really been living her life as a human all this time? There was a mountain of unanswered questions before me. But whatever. It didn't matter one jot, because there was all the time in the world for them. Welcome back, Crow. At my words, Crow displayed a beautiful smile. Tears beginning to flow down her childish face, Crow gave her response. And then I heard the signal of the monorail preparing to depart for the next station. I pushed my hands against the doorway to keep the door from closing, with apologies to the station attendant. Crow! I held out my hand. Tears streaming from her eyes, Crow leaped toward me. There was no need to get off the monorail, for this day was far from over. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Thus the clock advances. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Thus time advances. To everything there is a season, a time to dance and a time to mourn, a time to laugh and a time to weep, a time to every purpose under heaven. Tick-tock, Tick-tock. An unchanging tempo. A universal invariant until the hands of the clock cease to turn. Nonetheless, there are a certain few words that must be spoken before we can conclude our story. There are words yearned for by all people in search of a smile. Words of pure magic. Happily ever after, indeed.
Chrono Clock!
Okay then, let's have a look at Crow's extra scenes before we end this video, shall we? It was summer, or more accurately, the dying days of the lingering summer heat in September. Today, like any other day, Crow was thunderstruck. It had been about a week or so since she returned. Once our excitement had tapered out, we opted to hold a slightly belated little celebration of our reunion at the usual place. But in any case, Christ, it's hot! When the hell's fall gonna come anyway? While gazing upon Crow, so frozen and shook that time had seemingly stopped for her, I took a sip of my cola and muttered to myself. It's so peaceful. So boring. Will nothing big happen again, I wonder?
たわけ何が暇だ
Oh, so you were listening after all?
少し別の世界を味わっておっただけのこと
You know, there's plenty more delicious things in this world other than just the parfait from this one shop. At my implication that she wasn't being adventurous enough, Crow furrowed her eyebrows at me.
わかっておるのだがお祝いに美味しいものをというと情けにこれが思い浮かんでしまってな
If you say so. Anyway, wanna explain why you called me an imbecile?
生きるか死ぬかという出来事からまだ1ヶ月少々しか経っておらぬのだぞお主は懲りるということを知らんのか
Well, you know, I'm just letting bygones be bygones. I crunched ice cubes between my teeth. I wonder if Makoto's gonna go mental again, or maybe I'll even find another watch myself or something.
ドア方面お主がクロノスの世界に残ると言い出した時我が輩は肝を冷やしたのだぞ
Crow seemed a lot more downcast than angry at me. Maybe I'd said a little too much. Well, sorry about that. But still, you were the one who sacrificed yourself for my sake, weren't you?
それは
Hey, quit trying to avoid the issue.
わかっておるほれお互い様ということだろうが
Sheesh. When she gives me a smile like that, there really is no point in pressing the issue. I don't even need a reason to drop the subject. In any case, our ordinary day-to-day lives had resumed once more. But there wasn't really anything to do.
ただいまだな
Crow had gotten used to dashing to the house from afar. We would go on a date after school, after which we would talk until dinner time. This was our daily routine.
今日も楽しかったな
Yeah,
明日もこうであればいいなあ次のテストは我が輩も受けねばならぬようだし勉強もせねばな
Crow chatted happily about the future. I had dreamed of seeing her like this, so I was deeply moved. I was having a lot of fun flirting with Crow myself. It's a lot of fun, but not much goes on. No, let's stop kidding ourselves. There's not enough passion. That was it, really. I had kissed Crow, and we loved each other to give our lives for each other. That's why we became lovers. I wanted what was beyond that. I wanted to graduate from my virginity. Because I'm a guy. Damn it, now I'm getting turned on.
ご主人よ。今日はずっともじもじと、何をそんなに落ち着きがないのだ？
Now, I wasn't fidgeting.
そうか。
She squinted and looked suspicious of me, but that was cute too. This was my girlfriend after all. Of course, I wanted to do things to her. And there was no chance that Crow would ever ask me to have sex with her. So I had to take that first initiative. Hell, I could do it right now. There's no time like the present after all, and I've already summoned the momentum, haven't I? Don't underestimate a cherry boy, motherfuckers! But, oh god, my heart's about to explode. This is somehow more unnerving than when I met Chronos. Crow, you know. The sound of my voice was about 70 times weaker than the strength of my resolve.
どうした？
Well, you don't hate kissing, right?
お主とのキスであるなら好きだぞ。暖かくてふわふわとした気分になるからな。なんだ？キスしたくなったか？
No, not just a kiss. If you want me to stop what I'm about to do, please tell me.
何がだ？
Crow tilted her head. I kept quiet and circled behind her. I was too embarrassed to say it up front. I'd be in a better spot if I held Crow's small frame.
お
And cut! I'll see you in a second. It was a certain September Sunday. I had spent the entire day hanging out with Shuji and the guys from class, lazing around in a family restaurant. Though we had nothing to do, we only finished around dinner time. I grinned to myself, having wasted an entire day on nothing. Such was the highlight of youth. I'm home! I doubted anyone could hear my voice in the main building, but I called out anyway as I went through the front gate.
おー、ご主人。おかえり。邪魔しておるぞ。
I walked through the garden into my room and saw Crow inside. I'm back. What are you doing in my room?
いや何？漫画を読ませてもらっていただけだ。
I see. Michiru's room was filled with books in Braille. As much of an otaku DD was, she wouldn't keep her stuff during her homestay. We had novels in the house, but this was the only room where you could read comics. I didn't expect you to read comics, Crow.
意外？
Crow set aside her book. It seemed she wasn't engrossed in it, to look at me. What? It's just that you seem like the type to read novels over comics. It's just the way you look, of course. I wasn't going anywhere the rest of the day, so I emptied my pockets of my phone and wallet.
暇つぶしゆえ、本であれば何でもよかったのだが、内容より今は自分のペースで読めるから気分が良い。
At your own leisure? Now I had to tilt my head.
以前の我が輩では人間の読んでいる本を後ろから眺めることしかできなかったからな。
Oh, I see. She could have used her god powers to manipulate the flow of time. That much was obvious. But I imagine having to use your powers to make people flip through a page would get old really fast. If anything catches your eye, feel free to take it with you.
我が輩がいると何か不都合でもあるのか？
No, but they have an air conditioner there.
確かにこの部屋は暑いが、神であった頃に入り浸っていたせいで居心地が良いのだ。お主の匂いがして落ち着くしな。
With a cute smile, Crow came up to me and began sniffing.
うん、同じ匂いだ。
Do I really smell?
するとも、我が輩が一番好きな匂いだ。今は出かけていたので汗の匂いが強いな。
Oh. When Crow gets like this, I get flustered. I don't know whether to call her honest or defenseless. Really, just having Crow in my room got me horny. I remembered our intense first time together. Crow had associated sex with pleasure. Every time I asked her, she never refused. There were even times when Crow asked me instead. You know, we probably do it every day. If Michiru or Didi didn't get in the way, I would spend an entire day of my vacation just having sex with Crow. Oh, I really want to now. Maybe after I shower. Crow looked puzzled at my silence.
もしやご主人したいのか？
Yeah. I blushed, then nodded in surprise. You can really tell, can't you? Was it that obvious?
まあ顔もそうだがそういう匂いがしたと言った方がいいか。我が輩もそのムズムズしておってな。
Crow muttered as she blushed and rubbed her thighs together. Oh yeah, this would have a smell to it. I couldn't go into the specifics, but Crow reeked of the smell of wanting to be ravaged. Shower? Nah, I'm good.
ご主人それでなんだか。
Yeah. We would usually be kissing each other on the floor by now, but she looked at me with pleading eyebrows. What is it?
その我が輩はほら勉強家であろ？
You do put a lot of effort into school. You keep learning more about humans too.
授業もあれはあれで努力しておるのだが、そうではなくその人間の男女の営みというものを調べてそれに付随した知識にも精通してきたのだが、オナニーというものをしてみるので見てもらいたいのだ。ダメか？
See? Oh, sure.
なんだその反応は。
No, I'll watch. Sit down. I have no idea what's going on, but if she wanted me to watch, then by all means. Well, I was sure Crow wanted to know how people dealt with sexual urges when their partners weren't around to indulge them. Masturbation and sex had different procedures.
そうか。では準備してくるので待っておれ。
Get ready? Get ready to masturbate? She didn't seem to have heard my question because Crow had left the room. Her footsteps stopped now.
どうせだご主人。我が輩が良いと言うまで目を閉じておれ。
My eyes?
楽しみに待っているがよい。
Crow left the room again, a pleasant smile on her face. I folded my hands and tilted my head. What is going on? She wants me to watch her masturbate, but she wants me to close my eyes. Is this some kind of new fetish? Well, I'll do as she says. I closed my eyes. I didn't want to ruin her mood and let this chance slip by. When I closed my eyes, I began to notice sounds that had always been there. The cries of cicadas, the rustling of leaves in the garden, the faraway hustle and bustle of everyday life. I felt sweat seep out of my pores too. I could count the pulsing of my heart. It's summer, and after we've finished our sexual act, it would still be summer. A little less than 5 minutes later, I heard footsteps come down the hallway. Short strides, lightweight, good mood, adorable footsteps.
目はつぶっているな。
Crow's footsteps rustled against the mat. And there was a sound of something light being dragged. Crow?
あと少しだけ待て。
Crow rummaged around. I really wanted to peek out of the corner of my eye, but I can wait a bit more.
よいぞ。
K. I opened my eyes and was at a loss for words. She surprised me in 2 ways.
どうじゃ？
And cut! I'll see you in a second. Okay then, that was Crow's route. and next time on Chrono Clock, the last route of this visual novel, which is Miu's route. Until then, thanks for watching everyone, and have a nice day. Bye bye!